And in three, two, one. All right, we are starting the very first ever podcasts of a generation here. This is the whatever podcast. Basically, what I did is I went through TikTok Live and I found people with like not so many people watching, which is kind of like, hey, give me a random suggestion of a topic and I'll talk about it on my podcast. And a lot of people were very cool and they were like, hey man, let's talk about whatever, like, it's kind of whatever floats your boat. Cool, but I need some random suggestions. So I compiled a list of like suggestions I actually got and we're just going to start. So we're off top. First thing is horror movies. And so we're just going to talk about horror movies in general, maybe horror as a subject because it is Halloween. So recently, I've been playing a couple of different horror games and whatnot. Like Resident Evil 4 is my first time. Never played like the original, and that's what I'm playing now is like the GameCube version. They just did the remake and everything, but it's pretty cool. The jank controls I don't mind so much, but like it's definitely showing its age in many ways. In my opinion, Dead Space is like one of like the better horror kind of action game things. Outlast, the first one, was also pretty sick. That was like just like the first time. It's Outlast 2, nah, not so much. But then, so they want to talk about horror movies. So if we talk about horror movies, I recently just watched Smile 2. Smile 2 was pretty cool. I wasn't too familiar with the first one, so I actually had to like rewatch the first one to be like, oh, like how does this whole thing work? Oh, it's all like a metaphor about like trauma and stuff. So basically, if you've never seen the movies, you have this like demon thing that like infests you. And so when you're under the possession of this thing, you'll see like weird hallucinations and like nightmares and all sorts of stuff. And the way that you get it, slash, the way that you give it to somebody else, is you have to traumatize them. And it may or may not have to do with death, but usually it does. So it's like, oh, if I like kill myself in front of you or like whatever, and if you don't do this in a certain amount of time, then the uh, demon, phantom, whatever smile thing will just like find you, get inside of you, and then make you kill yourself. And like, I don't know actually. After that point, like, does it complete the cycle? Does it give it to somebody else? Because if it kills you, then you're kind of just cutting off the cycle. Huh? Didn't think about that. Let me take a sip right here. Talking further about horror movies. So I recently moved into like New Jersey kind of area, and that means I'm in Voorhees, Jason Voorhees, Friday the 13th. Classic. It's pretty sick. They added him to Multiverses, which is like a platform fighting video game. Sorry to bring up video games yet again, but Jason, he's a cool guy. He's got the mask and everything. When I was younger, I saw a little bit of Freddy versus Jason. Admittedly, not too much. And then like I saw less of Freddy and Jason movies, so I'm just like a poopy horror fan in that kind of genre. But I, love Saw. Saw is like one of my favorite things. I saw all the Saw movies up to the most recent one was what Jigsaw was the new one, like the prequel thing with John Kramer's like backstory in like Mexico. I'm not sure if that was Jigsaw or no, it's definitely Jigsaw because Spiral was the one with Chris Rock's direction. Yeah, yeah. Well, those are good movies, good films. I know a lot of people think that they were just like horror porn or whatever, but I was in my middle school, like kind of like prepubescent phase. I grew up watching like anime and like I like Death Note, and Death Note's very like crime drama type stuff. And then in Saw, you have like this crime drama type stuff, and so I kind of fell in love with that. It carries a lot of themes, that are like close and near and dear to me. So I guess on to the next subject, which would be alligators down the bayou. So, in my personal experience, when I went down to Florida recently, I was honestly specifically looking out for alligators, and pretty much every time I've ever been in Florida. When I've been in Orlando, when I've been in Tampa, yeah, and Cocoa Beach. Those are the three spots I've been in Florida, even in Disney, and I just could never find an alligator, a crocodile. I'm not sure which one of the two is in the bayou in that kind of like Gulf of Mexico area, but man, I wish I saw one. But at the same time, kind of don't wish I did, you know, because like, will it charge me? Will it just like rip my leg off? I don't know. Pretty sketchy. But if I were to ever go down to like the bayou itself, which would be Louisiana, I think that'd be pretty lit. Cause like, it's on my bucket list. I've been around the majority of the United States, pretty much everywhere besides the Texas to Florida stretch, like that little. So there's like your Louisianas and everything. I would love to see just like the New Orleans kind of like architecture and everything. Due to me doing parkour for a while and everything, I'm huge into like architecture. I can like really just be like, oh, that's so sick. Like, that's English architecture. That's like, Roman. That's like all sorts of things to movie. So that's alligators in the bayou. Next one is we're gonna respect people's boundaries. So when we're talking about people's boundaries, the like everyone in themselves, and I think people fail to understand this, is that they like we all have our own playbook, and what that means is like my version of what's normal boundaries and your version of what's normal boundaries may differ, so sometimes, especially in adulthood, we tend to forget. We like get older, and we're like, "Oh, the way I think is the way everybody else thinks," or like, and like everyone should just like go by my rules. And you meet people who don't, and like you're like, "Oh no," and this is especially true for like Americans because unfortunately Americans don't typically leave the United States because if you know that America is huge. Like each of the states is kind of like the size of the countries over in like say Europe or whatever. So for an American to go from like New Jersey to Florida, you're talking about like the same distance as like Spain to Russia. It's crazy, and I don't know if that's exactly true distance wise, but like yeah, it's expansive. And so a lot of Americans, they just chill in America and they get very used to like the American way of things. And you don't realize like if you just well in different parts of America, yes, but even if you go further beyond, it's something else to see another country, another culture entirely where yes is no, no is yes, kind of. Like when I've been to like China and Japan and everything, it's just it's so different, but it works. It's like not different in a bad way. It's not like I'm right and you're wrong, or you're right and I'm wrong. Like it's not a binary system. It's just a multifaceted way of finding things that work. And so to bring this back to like the people in the boundaries thing is like similarly everybody is like their own country. We all have our own like rule set and boundaries and things like that. And just because something is okay in your boundaries doesn't mean it's okay in someone else's boundaries. And sometimes it's okay to like assume, because like they're generally accepted things socially. But I mean, in my opinion, if you have a boundary that you don't want crossed, but it's a normal, like it's a social norm, then it's not on the other person if they fuck that up. Like if someone gives you a hug or like shakes your hand and you're like a germaphobe or something, you don't want human contact, then you can't criticize that other person because you're outside the norm. So you should let them know that like, hey, I don't like that. But if we go like the other way around, where like the other person's stepping outside the norm, they shouldn't come over and just like kiss you on the lips. Like that's very intrusive way of meeting somebody. It's very now you're pushing my bounds, you know? All right. Next one is Arizona. Don't remember what the hell that was about, but we're going to talk about Page, Arizona, real quick. Page, Arizona is this little small trucking town in Arizona. It's kind of near like the Grand Canyon and everything, but the problem is when you're there and you're stuck there for a little while because your car broke down, doesn't fucking matter if the Grand Canyon's there because you probably saw the Grand Canyon already, and you know what? It's just a hole in the ground, and you're just sitting there at the end of the day in like a nothing town, and like the best thing to do there is like go to fucking Sonic, which is like microwave fucking tater tots covered in American cheese. I don't even know. It's like the most dog shit, bullshitty fucking non-food in all of existence that's like soggy yet crispy, but like not really. Like it's the worst of every world. Yeah. I got a lot of things to say about Paige, man. I could go on a whole fucking spiel. If you want that, just let me know. We could just say fuck Paige. But anyway, next subject is God coming back. So, if we talk about God coming back, it's been a while since I've been to church, and I'm talking like 20 some years, but from what I understand is like God coming back is in Revelations, and it's like, hey man, like there's gonna be this whole like holy war thing, me and versus the devil. The earth is like the battleground, and was it the holy people? They get raptured, which is yeah, like it's the rapture. You get taken up to heaven even though you're not dead yet or something. I remember I watched like these movies. I was like, my mom was like super like hardcore into like the religion thing at the time. We watched like Left Behind or whatever, and it depicted like people just like their clothes were still there, but they were like shrunked. And I remember American Dad did it because American Dad's like Family Guy, but like the conservative haha version. But yeah, basically it's like the good people get raptured up into heaven, so they're like out of the way, and then like I guess fuck everyone else, and then the devil comes out, and then like Jesus or like God, whatever, the kind of same thing I guess technically, that he comes out, and then they like beat the shit out of each other for like eternity. I'm not 100% on like the play by play at that point. I think it's just more predicted than is like here's how it's gonna end, because it hasn't happened, I guess. I'm not too good at talking about religion, honestly. And then the next thing is just some stuff for real, bro. Yeah, I think I'm already talking about some stuff for real. I think I'm doing pretty good at this like podcast thing, being my first time. I hope the lighting is good. I brought up a white web page, like hopefully get some lighting here. The lighting here kind of sucks, but either way, it's more about the audio, and I know the audio is at least somewhat decent because of my microphone. Like I said again, this is my first time doing this, and I've got all these topics off of TikTok Live, which is like the bottom of the barrel. Anyway, next thing is murder documentaries. Okay, so I can speak on this one, right? So murder documentaries, we all like them, right? You go on like your, Discovery, your CSI, whatever kind of stuff. Netflix has a bunch of them. But what's really funny about the murder documentaries, Always Sunny kind of pointed this one out, is that they follow a certain kind of formula, and once you realize that formula exists, every single murder documentary becomes hilarious. So like, I was watching the one with Natalie or something. Her name was. It's like a girl who's got the like dwarfism syndrome. She's small, but it was this weird controversy where the mother was saying that she wasn't small, or like she was younger or small. Like it was this weird thing where she was trying to say she's a full grown adult when she wasn't, and like her age came into question, whether she's 20 something or 10, and like it was a whole crazy story. but in that documentary itself, like a lot of the cues were like the same as the Always Sunny like parody, and then there was also just like a lot of like weird, funny, hilarious moments that like didn't exactly. It didn't like they were sitting there like in the police room watching evidence, and out of nowhere, just they start arguing about like, oh, can I have that donut? Oh, I'll take that donut. And like you would think it would cut, but like no, like it just starts playing playful music, and they're all like bullshitting about like who's gonna eat the next donut, and it's like, what the fuck am I watching? It's such a weird. And then like the next thing they're like, oh, and she beat her and threw her down the stairs. Like, what the fuck is this shit? Like, it's so crazy. All right. Next thing is why you should never get a vintage motorcycle, right? Um, I'm gonna ask ChatGPT that one honestly because I have no fucking idea. But in my opinion, um, why you should never get a vintage motorcycle would probably come down to the accessibility of parts for repair. I imagine that the older motorcycle probably the parts are harder to come by. I imagine like motorcycles in a way are kind of like laptops where a lot of the pieces, not a lot of them, but some of them are like custom fit for a certain design, and therefore if you need like a repair you kind of need the certain piece where other things might be more widespread, if that makes sense. So ChatGPT said maintenance demands is a thing, costly and rare parts, so it kind of sounds like what I was saying. Reliability issues, so it also sounds like just due to the fact that it's an older machine that it'll be kind of like hit or miss, even if like it's like very well kept. So that kind of sucks. Poor fuel efficiency. Now I've heard that the older cars, especially like muscle cars and stuff, they just didn't give a fuck, and that makes sense because why not? Lack of modern safety. I don't think that really matters. Comfort doesn't matter. Insurance, whatever. Storage, whatever. All right, I would say it's a pretty good roundabout of why you shouldn't buy a vintage motorcycle. And next, we're gonna talk about more Bible stuff. Kind of seems lame, so we're gonna go into Trill Boy T on TikTok. I don't know. He just told me to talk about him, so let me look him up real quick. Trill Boy T. Right.
That's what you're worried about? Not making new friends and learning how to.
And like, I'm gonna watch. I'm gonna watch his. Oh fuck, he's live right now. It's weird. I'm gonna watch his like last 5 things and then give you a synopsis of what I think about Trill Boy T. And I imagine I'll just like send this to him because like fuck it, it's weird and random. So thank you for just recommending yourself. Weird. Settings don't even look good. Ah, he's the man with the hair. Alright, now I remember. Swipe left. Good girl. Alright, my man seems thirsty. It's on an album. Does my man have music? Fucking. Alright, he's lip syncing something. Lip sync the same song. Same song. Alright, so it sounds like he is an independent artist who's just trying to promote his stuff out there on like different platforms and everything. Don't know too much about him, but yeah, he's on TikTok, Trill Boy T. Fuck it. Next one is Baby Mamas, which I could talk about this one a little bit. So Baby Mamas is like when you or two people have a child, but then they don't like stay in a relationship. So like that is your baby's mother, you know, like it's your baby mama. and it's kind of like a ghetto term, like ebonics or whatever. But it's been adopted more into like the modern um, lexicon of things, and so my brother has a baby mama and everything. So I like I said, I can speak on this, and it's kind of interesting about how the dynamics work because typically with children, the mother gets like a lot of like privileges, like super custody, and like even the whole like they get to choose the abortion or not or whatever, like force the guy to have a child and kill his child or whatever, like kind of thing with abortion you stand on, whatever. um I don't know, it's really interesting that we never consider like the man when we're talking about the baby. It's just usually like the mother, which I understand there's like the maternal instinct and all that kind of stuff, but at the same time, like, it is half his child, and like men have a there's like a thing for deadbeatism or whatever, but like you can't just say like everyone's like these people I know, because then you're like kind of racist, but like not race, but something else. Anyway, before I make that stupid, we're gonna talk about how men suck. So, in the same way, like we can't say a huge generalization about a group of like something, but like I said, typically there is like the deadbeat dadism kind of thing where like dudes walk out, dudes won't pay child support. There's like a whole bunch of things with like why dudes suck, and then even outside of like in childcare and everything, in general, there's like dudes like we're very primitive in the way that we'd like to just like fight and fuck, and so the one half of that fight is we might get just like hasty with our women or whatever, kind of like you're just trying to hang out and like we get all heated or something, or just like want to yell about some bullshit where it's like being stupid. And then fuck, is like a lot of men just can't seem to talk to a woman as a like-minded individual, a similar human being. It's just like, you think I want to put penis inside? It just doesn't. So men have a lot of things to work on in that. Women also have things to work on, of course, but like generally when it comes to like social dynamic stuff, women are further ahead, and like especially I would say with like the emotional kind of things as well. That's definitely where women are the better of the two genders. Oh fuck, I shouldn't have said that, but whatever. We're gonna keep pressing on. All right. So next thing is bitches getting money, but if you're gay, it's cool. So like, I'm not gay, but if you're gay, it's cool. But yeah, bitches getting money is definitely a thing that's been happening. I mean, bitches been always getting money. Back in the day, you had gold diggers and everything, and then you move a little bit further into the future, and you got like prenups and like just marrying like Hugh Hefner and then divorcing like all sorts of weird kind of stuff like that. But then with like modern hoism, we've progressed into this future where now women are doing exactly what men wanted to in the past, but now saying it is empowerment. There's like, hey, like, here's all of me naked, and like tons of it. And if you just give me like $5 this month, you get it. And back in the day, it's like, man, it's so hard. Like, what would I even do to see a woman naked? I mean, Googled stuff, but like, see someone I know naked, and like now it's like, I don't know. I go to high school. There's like 1,000 people. Yeah, probably someone's got an OnlyFans, and like it's so interesting that that kind of stuff has been normalized to the point where like, yo, my family's in on it, or like, I don't know. It's just to me, it's cringe in a way. Like, you do you, but like don't try to play it off at the same time. Like I hate that. Like when like, oh, I'm an entrepreneur, I'm like a model. Like, what kind of model? Like just say it like it is. Anyway, next one on that kind of subject is how thick Charizard is. If you ask me, Charizard is one of the thonkiest lizards I've ever seen in my life. He's got those thick, meaty legs and a meaty ass stomach thing, which has like I think it's a different color, like it's like tan or something, right? His little pouch thing, and he's got flaming breath, so he's a little bit flaming, right? um, yeah, Charizard, he's thick. I'd fuck with him. Might fuck him. Next one is women's rights and women's wrongs, which I think I covered honestly, like a little bit of like just the different things and the gender dynamics and everything. Obviously, I was saying how women have their fair share of wrongs in abortion and everything, and I also was saying how like they have their rights in which, or not rights, but like their goodness in being like more socially and like emotionally uh, comprehensive, just like better at like figuring out and engineering those kinds of things. That's why a lot of men get frustrated in relationships because women can just like manipulate a situation or like gaslight, I guess, kind of, maybe not that, but like engineer a situation in such a way that they get an outcome that they wanted, and the man doesn't realize until the end of it, and they get frustrated and they're like, "What the hell," And so like it's stupid. But yeah, anyway, we're all hurt by the same kind of stuff, and what I mean by that is like when you break it down, like to the simplest distillate of any problem that you have, it's probably one of three things. Some kind of insecurity that you have, like a hole that needs to be filled, and it's like you're trying to plug it up with different things. You're like, yo, man, um, I don't like myself, so I'm gonna go get a boyfriend or girlfriend. Well, then you're just gonna have a bad relationship because you're not complete. You have problems and stuff, and like you're filling it with someone else, and now you're putting it on them, and now you're gonna take issues out on them. It's just irresponsible in my opinion. And then also like with that whole like, there's good ways to fill it as well. Like you could, instead of going for like drugs or like fucking everybody or like being an asshole, you could do like get addicted to fitness, or like a sport, be like, man, I'm just gonna be like the best fucking uh, Olympic runner or some shit. Like, just fucking get really into something. I didn't realize until I got a little bit older, like recently actually, like the last year, that how video games and stuff could be bad because I have such an infatuation with video games and everything. But video games and certain other things give you a feeling of fulfillment and satisfaction without you actually fulfilling or satisfying anything. In actuality, you're just sitting there in front of a fucking screen. Like if your cat looked at you, like a cat doesn't understand what's going on that screen. So they just see you sitting there mesmerized, just fucking clicking around on some controller, staring at this like wall. And then we look at our cats and stuff and go, haha, they're looking at the window, it's silly. We're doing the exact same thing. Um, and that's what people fill the hole with. And like the way that, like I said, that could be bad is if you just start not getting your social fulfillment and you're fulfilling with like this external thing that's not actually giving you true fulfillment, it's like false calories. It's like McDonald's. It's like, you know what I mean? Like you're just taking in, it's filling you for the moment, but then it just quickly fades away. And then therefore you end up in a state of emptiness more often than not. And in that emptiness, you seek more fulfillment. And that can turn into a perpetual spiral because you'll seek the thing that feels like you're getting fulfillment, but then you're getting this short term non fulfillment. and you're like, oh crap, I need more, and it just becomes like chips, you know. The more you eat and eat and eat, you're just never filled, and you reach the end of the bag and you just want more chips. All right, well, that's the end of the whole podcast. I would say fuck it, Steve, and marijuana. So yeah.